All right, what is going on, guys? It is time for another episode of the Chasing Waypoints podcast. And we're back. Oh, you guys heard it last week. We spoke with Andy Kirker talking a little bit about the Baja 1000 and what is going on. This week, we're going to head back to the rally side of it. And the alert's coming in right now. We're going to be talking to none other than, well, you read the title. You know, we are on the phone? No, we're going to go old school. We're going to send them a link. We're going to be in the bivouac with none other than David Black, talking a little bit about his adventures. So for those of you that don't know, Lyndon Poskit does a school rally simulation type deal, and Mr. Black, Couch to Dakar, just got back from doing that, and there's a new bike in the stable. So we're going to be talking a little bit about that on today's episode. How's everybody doing? Huh? Are we out having fun? Are we having fun yet? Is that I don't know what movie that's from. Okay. I better cool it on that, and next thing I know, I'm going to be asked for royalties. But lots going on. We are winding down the year, and we have got a lot coming up, man. Seriously. Rally raid season is upon us. Dakar Rally coming in hot. And then after that is going to be the Coast to Coast Rally. Got some rally schools coming up as well. A little bit of everything. All right, let's find out why the app is not loading. Unplug the phone here. Uh-oh. Did we do an update? Did something happen? See, that's the problem with technology nowadays, guys. I don't get it. It was working fine last week. I was looking at analytics, looking at everything, and now all of a sudden, it doesn't want to work. Well, this isn't good. Okay. Anyway. Oh, man. I got to get in the garage. I got a bunch of cleaning to do. Did a round trip with none other than to go visit Mr. David Pearson a few weeks back. And basically, it's like a tornado took over the garage. And yeah, didn't make it happen. That was an interesting one for sure. Now let's message him here. Oh, I think it's the whole phone. Uh-oh. We're gonna have to go back with the. Well, did you try and did you power it off and on? Well, let's try that first. See what is happening. So yeah, a lot going on. Trying to figure it out. We've got some rally stuff coming up. Rally schools. You got the 2 dates now. I don't know if you guys saw that. The rally school going on in Delta, Colorado, put on by School of Moto. Donnie Reddington joining forces with Willamette Racing to do a rally school. Turn down the party down a little bit. They're going to be doing that party up there, doing some rally stuff. I saw some of the updates on their social media. If you don't follow Rally School or School of Moto, I should say School of Moto, you need to be following them to get some of the updates and what they are doing. They actually sold out the first rally school and opened up another date right thereafter. I believe it's right the weekend, right after the rally school that they had originally planned. So very interested to see how the attendance goes for that one. I'm not 100% sure I will be able to make it, but we'll see. It's just, man, I'm telling you, this 9 to 5 life is just, well, I guess what else can we do, right? We just got to work. Got to make it happen. All right, there we go. Now I like this. Now it's kind of trying to load. Is it going to load? It may not load. Anyway, so a lot going on. So I'm curious, have you guys tried the steg pegs yet on your bike? That is something that I'm hoping to get the garage cleaned up and get those on the bike. Rider aid, something for, how should we say, something to help make it a little easier to ride the bike. The idea behind them to hold the boot in place or help hold the back of the boot in place. We're seeing it a lot on the Dakar bikes, different variations thereof. If you're following Cove Moto US, you would have seen the pro bike that is going to the 2024 Dakar. And on the rear tanks, you can see that rubber kind of scoop that they put on there. That's also the same deal. The Husqvarna, the Austrian rally bikes are also sporting something similar to that. So It is. I mean, I'm guessing it's something. It's got to be something important. If people are, if they're starting to put them on some of these factory bikes, I think that's a big. I think that's a big indicator of where things are going with that. I mean, if it helps you hold onto the bike, is it a crutch? Is it for poor form? Is it not? Is it masking something else? I think that's the big part. So we'll see. I mean, I think that the big part about it is that if you can ride the bike in a fast manner or in a more confident manner, and it's helping you hold onto the bike, and it's just making it a little bit easier for you to ride the long distances, then I think we have a winner. So I'm guessing. Let's see here. We're going to paste this. We're going to go over here. We've sent him the link. I'm going to keep an eye on my phone to see when he logs in. And we're going to be talking to David Black of Couch to Dakar. I'm not sure if you guys are following him or not, but if you aren't, you should be. He's been on his journey. I know he's been ramping up his training and doing that stuff as well. So I'm curious. I think 2025 is going to be the year. So we'll see what he has to say and what he's preparing for, what the new goals are. With him, and especially now with the rally bike. I mean, that was pretty cool. I'm really curious to hear about how things went down at the rally school or the rally simulation with Lyndon, and what may he have learned. I mean, those bikes are all Rally Factory replica bikes, so it's a great experience. We'll talk a little bit more about how many days it was. I believe he did the Spanish version or the one in Spain. So it will be good here. We'll give him just a few minutes to get settled in. I think he just popped on. David?
Hey, Victor. How you doing?
Good. How are you, sir?
Good.
Welcome back.
It's only been 2 years now, I think.
Right? Isn't that crazy how fast that's gone?
It's insane.
Yeah. So how are you doing? Are you... Your training has been stepping up, dude.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'll tell you what. It was interesting because, just in the big picture, when I started this, and I think when we last talked, the idea of Dakar in the abstract was, this thing that you could easily engineer into some sort of a plan and move towards it. But what I didn't expect was that really, if it's like a mountaintop, you're kind of going towards it. You start to discover that it's actually way further away than you ever imagined. As you get closer, you start to realize that not only is it further away, but you're kind of cresting over the curvature of the earth and seeing how large it is. And so that's, it was kind of a wake-up call for me at Sonora Rally after one of the, hardest days there, with long liaisons, I think I was talking to some folks who said, really at Dakar, just take this day, double the special, and double the liaison, and that's your average day at Dakar. And so since then it's been all about, how do I reframe this goal into something that doesn't just overwhelm me. And I think that's been kind of my takeaway since our last time talking. I mean, it started out as playing a video game and tried to put it into practice, but boy, it's actually Dakar itself is such a big goal that it'd be much easier to say, from couch to Everest, couch to Ironman, any of those would be fine. But the level of skill you have to have if you're not if you weren't raised racing motorcycles to get to the level of speed that you would need to be able to make it through a stage at Dakar is something else. And that's something that, I'm kind of now moving this towards, let's call it a North Star that sits out there, but I'm still training for rally, still trying to get as fast as I can. My focus is going to be to start doing enduros. And that's kind of where I'm at this point, getting the fitness really dialed in. That's because that's one of the things I can't control. So that's kind of the quick update in 3 minutes.
Yeah. Well, and I was going to say, that's something that, outside looking in, right? I've noticed that the goal, your focus on the health side of it has stepped up. I remember when we had first talked about, there was going to the doctor and getting just like, okay, is this even feasible? What are the things that I need to work on and that kind of thing. And so it sounds like you're starting to dial it in even closer to that now. It's taken more of a front seat.
Oh yeah, for sure. It was funny because I think right before Sonora, I broke my wrist right before Sonora, 8 weeks beforehand. And I was talking with Happy Dave, and he said, get your fitness dialed in, because that's the one thing that you do have control over. And at that time, I couldn't even pull on a rower if I wanted to. So it was really difficult at that time to kind of get that part of it going. And also before Sonora, I'd spent the entire year really working solely on trying to get a little bit better and faster on the bike. But in without really considering my fitness and weight and everything else, and because it's like you show up at a hare scramble, and I mean you find yourself lining up next to guys who are twice as big as you. They're older, they're smoking, and they smoke your butt. And I'm like, oh my God, how is it that these guys do this? And I'm trying to do everything right, and but these guys grew up riding, and that's the one thing that I have to kind of keep reminding myself is that I literally just started riding a dirt bike 2.5 years ago, and that's been the that's been the hard wake up call that's kind of permeated all of the training I'm doing and all the events that I've participated in, is that I need to get that speed up and get some confidence and some other things. So that's where I'm at today.
Nice. Well, and like that's a very valid point too. I've seen it in a lot of places in riding, like even here in Southern California, riding with Gnarly Dave, somebody that's got a lot of riding experience or that's been riding many years. It's like the speed is just so natural to them. And for us, it's kind of like, yeah. my eyes are having trouble keeping up at this speed. This feels way faster than it should.
Yeah, they don't even have to think about it. I mean, they're not thinking about riding; they're just simply riding.
Hey guys, what's going on? This is Victor with the Chasing Waypoints podcast. Hey, super quick, we have got some news for you guys. So, Mira Activewear. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the brand. You should be. You've seen their handiwork if you've seen pictures of Happy Dave and a few of our other riders here in the States, but also in the Dakar Rally. A lot of the top pros wearing their windbreakers, custom made rally suits, and things like that. They have been phenomenal. They are a very, very high quality product, awesome printing, design team, everything. But the reason we're interrupting this episode is they have got a fundraiser and promotional raffle going on right now between now and February. You want to get on over there. So you can purchase a limited edition Mira bandana set. So 3 special designs. That will get you entered into the contest for a grand prize of a full rally suit. So check out all the rules and limitations, all that fun, all that jargon. Get on over to the website. Link is in the description. And let's get back to the episode. Okay, so I know that I saw it. We definitely got to talk about this because you're the first one, I think, in the American rally group of people to go out to Spain to Lyndon's event. I'm calling it a school, but I don't know that it necessarily is a school. Tell me about that experience.
Yeah. Well, I mean, actually, their Wes Carr has actually taken some of the trainings and with Lyndon, but so I think of the Americans who've been out there, maybe him. I don't know anyone else from the U.S. who's been out there, but it's on one hand, it's an event. On the other hand, it is training. It's heavy duty training because the number of notes that they pack into a given stage is like almost, I mean, I think they said something like they have 20,000 notes for 2,000 kilometers. I mean, so you're talking an average of 10 notes per kilometer, but it's, I'd be honest, whenever you got to a note that was more than a 1 kilometer, it was just this wave of happiness goes over you that you get to just ride this thing. But I mean, I found myself a lot of times, scrolling ahead, looking at, okay, this is just a caution note. And I could get down and I could find myself, finding maybe 4 kilometers or something where I'm just, okay, I just got to ride this thing, ride it like I stole it. But I mean, as far as training goes, I mean, it's fantastic training. It teaches you to read some of those compound notes that they're doing in Dakar. It teaches you to really pay attention to what's in the book. It's quite frenetic in terms of that, but it just trains your brain to pick the stuff up a lot quicker than you're used to looking at it. So, where Sonora, I mean, we had a lot of space in between each notes, but with Lyndon, it was very, very quick and frenetic, which really does train your brain to navigate. One of the things that, back to my writing and something that Lyndon noticed, he said, you're having to think about how you're writing. These other guys who are here, they're not thinking about writing. They're just writing and they're just navigating. So it was a little bit of a double the effort for me. And, my speed, did become a factor. Lyndon does do one stage that is, they call it their mega stage. And he went out and he actually rode it at a full race pace. And it took him 10 hours to finish this stage. Three of us, actually we were joined with HT Rally Raid and some of their guys, and they were getting ready to go to Rally de Maroc. And so like literally three of their guys actually, and myself, we stopped halfway through the stage because it ended right where we were staying. And so that was sort of a legitimate bailout point for everybody. But I mean, the other guys who tried to chase it down Lyndon, I mean, they were coming in 2 hours after him. So it was a legit big stage. And that's kind of for me, it's a performance criteria that says, hey, I need to keep training. I need to get a little faster. There were certain types of terrain that I really struggle with. And there's some certain riding techniques that I took away from that training where I need to come back and just kind of keep working on them. And one is sort of the deep pea gravels, loose sand types of things where it's tight turns, not necessarily. I can flow through that stuff okay, but when it comes to like the really tight washes, really narrow ones, I have a lot of struggles in those, and I have to trials my way through that. And all the other guys are saying, well, you just twist the throttle and just mash the brake into the turn and pop out. And I'm just like, yeah, I need to learn this. And then the other is the gravel roads, the winding gravel roads like we have here in Georgia. I mean, just, if I get a lot of seat time on that, I think I'll start to pick up my speed on that. But it does also have to do with go ahead and let the rear walk out a little more and start to be more comfortable with that. So, and again, that's using my rear brake more, which I'm a tall guy and it's sometimes hard for me to cover it. So I've always just kind of deferred to my front, but I think I can actually get a little bit more smoother and feel a little more in control by settling the suspension into a turn with my rear. So that's just kind of my takeaway from that week. It was fantastic. It's really, really tough training. It's the stages are very long. I think almost every day we were out there over 10 hours. I mean, some of the terrain they put us through would qualify as hard enduro. There was a river wash that was basically, you're going down dry waterfalls on those big rally replicas, and it was awesome. It was so much fun, but it was legit training on very tough terrain. It was amazing.
Yeah, I mean that was. I saw one of the notes and one of the pictures that you shared, and I'm like, well, wait a minute, this is the wrong bike for this. I mean, and that was, when I'm going down this wash, and I'm like, are they serious? I thought I might have been in the wrong place. And I'll be honest, there was one day that three of us, we all followed each other's tracks down into some single track, hardcore single track enduro. I came around the corner, and there's Lyndon with one of the other riders trying to help him get his bike turned around to get out of there. And as I came around the corner, he's kind of a little short with me. It was like, follow the road book. And I was like, well, I did follow the road book. And then I was like, well, I also questioned myself when I saw tracks. But I mean, the stuff we were able to do with the Rally replica was just absolutely insane. I mean, it's such a balanced bike. And and as a matter of fact, going through that section, I was happier on that bike than I would have been on, let's say, my 300XC, because it's carrying a lot more weight. The slacked out angle of the front forks, I felt like, it kind of pushes down, through that stuff a little bit better. And you just kind of ride the bike rather than the bike riding you. So it was really cool. I was so impressed with that bike. Now, I mean, if you get out of balance on that, you're going to have a bad time. But, the whole time I was there, I'm like, don't break the bike, don't break the bike. And I kept it up the entire time, which was one of my goals. But nice. Some might say that I wasn't riding hard enough, if I didn't fall once. But yeah, I didn't want to have to pull my credit card out at the end. And he has a credit card machine that he brings with him, by the way, for if you do too much damage to the bike. But fortunately, no one in our entire group did, and we had some people had some serious wrecks. Wow.
I mean, everyone wrecked. We had two of the guys actually into the hospital. So one of them broke his ribs. The other one broke his shoulder or damaged, I think, ligaments in his shoulder. But but the bikes actually fared pretty well.
Nice. Yeah, I think that's anytime you look at the tower prices, the windshield prices, or the windscreen prices and stuff like that, I mean, they're pretty pricey. But it sounds like, I mean, still the bikes are still built, really well. So it's not,
Lyndon said, he goes, these bikes crash well, but it's the little things on them that cost so much. I mean, even the kickstand, if you stand up on it, it does the same thing that a 500, FE5, 500, 501 would do, which is the kickstand pops, strips out and pops out that little spring bracket. But on the Rally replica, it's significantly more expensive. So
for the same part.
Exactly.
Well, and I mean, and that's, I guess it's interesting though to see like how those bikes work, a Rally replica versus when you're riding, the traditional 501, the 350, which is what you have in, going into it.
It's significantly different. And it was, I mean, such an eye opener, when you strap on a Rally tower plus a big, a 4.5 gallon tank to a FE501, just the physics of that and the fact that the just the head angles and other things and geometry of the bike, it's just not even in the same. It's not even the same league. Now, the Rally replica definitely is carrying a lot more weight, but it's so balanced. It's kind of like if you've ever ridden like the BMW GS, you hop on it and it has that ballast. And what the way I kind of describe riding that is that you have a little bit more left and right range before things go bad. It kind of it sort of helps. When you're tired, for example, the balance of that bike is it's a little more forgiving, I think, in terms of that left and right balance, just because of the ballast. But it's just really so purpose built for rally and for long days, and it has a level of refinement that's just impossible to match with just an enduro bike with a bolt-on tower.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Yeah, the what we would consider the rally light stuff here, in the US.
Exactly. Yeah.
Interesting. So, I mean, that's good. And how long was that total trip?
So I went ahead and went out a day early so that I could recover from jet lag and everything, and hung out at, kind of in the beach in Spain. And then the next, it was on got a full Saturday of just kind of hanging out, and then ended up Sunday morning. They picked me up. We drove out to where we were staying near Guadix, which is up in sort of a desert region of Spain. We got ourselves together. He did maybe about an hour and a half presentation, about road books and just general instruction of rally. There were some people who actually had not done rallies before. I was actually maybe one of the only ones who had actually done one already. But then afterwards, we suited up and we did a prologue stage. It was just a 20K road book. Mm-hmm. Really fun. I mean, it was. I mean, the road book literally took us into some bush. The road dead ended in some bushes and went up into a farm. And I thought, well, okay, we got to follow it up onto the farm. Well, turned out no, you had to actually ride through the bushes, and it was hilarious. I've got some video of that I'll post at some point. But it's we did the prologue, and then it was 6 days of full stages. The last day was a little bit cut short and a little bit easier and just more kind of take in the scenery. But all the other days were really tough. They were nice, big, long, complicated stages that just cook your brain and your body. And I'll say that by the second day, maybe, I was really slow getting into one of the final sections, and one of the crew was there, and they actually said, hey, you can keep going, but you've got probably 3 more hours, and you're going to be coming in at dark. Do you want to risk how you're feeling tomorrow, or do you want to go ahead and keep going? Well, I went ahead and cut that one short so that the next day I could actually do a full day. And but I mean, in terms of the way they set this whole thing up, I mean, it was fantastic. I mean, pretty much every, I'd say 2 or 3 hours, maybe every, 100K of stage, you'll come around a corner and there's the support truck with food, extra water to fill you back up. They had medical crews everywhere. And every place that we were riding was permitted for us to be able to do that, which put us into some places that no one else is allowed to go on a dirt bike. So
Nice.
with that, it was fantastic. So from just that side of it, which is kind of what I thought it was before signing up, when I saw him announce it a couple years ago, that it would be just like an adventure ride on Rally 450 replicas. Mm-hmm. No, I mean, you've got to be a pretty solid higher level rider. He even said that, he wouldn't have suggested that I come out until he saw that I'd actually finished Sonora.
Ah, gotcha. Yeah, it's that's an interesting thing of after doing the SoCal Rally. It's you think 200 kilometers, right? 120 miles doesn't sound like a lot for a lot of these guys. I mean, it's basically warming up. And if you didn't have a road book in front of you and you're just kind of laxy-daisy kind of riding around, you could click off those miles pretty quick. But it's once you put the road book in front, man, 200 kilometers starts to sound kind of daunting. And then I can see why, especially if he's saying, or what you're saying is that there's a really high note count per kilometer.
Right. Yeah. And to some extent, I drove up with the guy who built that road book, and, he said, I did not put anything in that book that didn't need to be there. So it was just by virtue of the terrain that we were on, and some of the gnarliness of it. It's not open desert. It's not long 5-10K stretches where you get to go wide open the entire time. There were some spots where we could actually open it up. It was really fun, but for the most part, you're either up in mountain roads, you're in sections that are very frenetic with lots of different options for turning. It was very good. That's all I can say is that it really trains your brain to read notes and process stuff kind of on the fly. And from that, I mean, it was fantastic. It just, for me, I just wish I could have did each day a little bit faster and make it through those washes without, soiling myself.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's, different country. And like you said, if you know that it's going to be pricey if you hit the deck, you're going to ride differently. But I mean, I've heard it said elsewhere, and it's not like, KTM is using Lyndon's school or Lyndon's experience as a feeder program. Right. They're not calling riders that complete that saying, hey, how about a contract, So
yeah, exactly.
So yeah.
And I mean, I think, to the extent that, when I look at, Sonora and, my speeds there, it's definitely something, I want to measure against others to determine, how far am I progressing? And, with Lyndon or Sonora, you have so much money, invested in one of these things that if you train, let's say at 85%, or 90%, and you race, let's say an enduro at 100% or a little more, rally, I found, I mean, just maybe because I'm cheap or something, I do not want to, crash out and be out of it. I've got so much invested. I want to finish. So, in Sonora, I was like, man, I'm running at probably 65 to 70% just to survive. And, I'm not going to take any risks at all. So, that's, I need to continue probably to rally with that mindset, but the speed needs to, my 65, 70%, next year needs to be twice as fast as what it was, last year. So, that's the thing where after Sonora, I was like, I need to kind of stop doing rally for a while and maybe just focus on things like enduros. You do $55 and, you slam into a tree or something, and knock yourself out for, the rest of the race. You're down $55, and that's not the end of the world. The kind of speed and aggressiveness that you'll take into like a 1-day race or a hare scramble or something, I think would pay off a little bit more for me, just in terms of me trying to push my speed up, be a little bit more aggressive on the throttle.
Yeah. Well, like you said, it's a process, right? And as you start, it's kind of a hard thing, right? It's like, where is it? Is it the brain processing what you're seeing and it thinking it's fast? Or is it the body saying, the feeling and all the sensory input saying, okay, I can't keep up with this pace, or I don't feel like I'm there?
I think it's definitely a mix. And I love to think about that part of this, just kind of engineering brain, to try to figure out is there a way to hack this? And, people all say, well, it's just seat time and seat time. And I think on one hand, your speed does start to pick up over time and you don't feel like it does. And I've talked to a number of racers and I asked them, I say, there's actually a guy that I ride with. He's former A-level racer here in Georgia, woods racer. And we rode with him. This guy is so smoking fast. And he's 78 years old. And I said to him, I said, do you feel like you're going fast? Because, when we watch you, you're flying through the woods. You're zigzagging through those, tight single track trees. I mean, all that. And he goes, no, I actually feel like I'm going slow. So I think, to your point, yeah, your brain starts to adapt to just the inputs and the sensory part of it. But he also said, but it's instinct when I'm turning. He said, I just know where to put the bike when I do that. And I actually rode last weekend out in South Carolina in in some of the sand, the deep sandy stuff, and ended up, same kind of thing. It was like I was just crawling through this stuff, but then over time I was like, wait, I'm actually now going a little bit faster. I'm starting to feel myself being able to get through this stuff as if it's just a regular trail.
Yeah.
But I'm still super slow. And the guy I was riding with, he was saying, really need to be probably he said that I'm probably at a mid to lower pack sea level rider if I was at a national enduro, but that I would need to be podium B level if I'm going to try to make it through a stage of Dakar without, having it be completely horrible.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, that's the experience, right? And getting, what does it take, seeing other lines, what people are doing, and then kind of going from there. I guess, obviously it's easier said than done. My age, now I'm 55 and it's really tough to hit the ground hard and recover from that. Sonora, I went off into a witch's eye on the third day. We're just a brief dune section. It's funny because there's that really lovely shot of me kind of lofting off the dune that I think the Sonora folks put up on their Instagram. And then, 10 seconds later, I did the same thing off the witch's eye and cased it on the, 10 feet down and absolutely destroyed my ankles. That's right. You handed me some of that arnica to help me out with that. Yeah.
But I'm still having trouble with the ankles today. So I'm not healing like I did when I was younger. And so I am a little bit more cautious, which that holds back a little bit of the attempt to try new things and get a feel for things that, are necessary. And that comes back to the original premise of my whole effort was, can someone my age actually start almost as a novice and be able to, do Dakar? It seems, right now where I'm standing, it seems like it's a very, very almost nearly impossible goal. It's still worth kind of having that as my North Star, but, it's definitely something to consider. All the guys who are racing Dakar post 50 years old are guys who raced very high levels when they were much younger.
Yeah. And I think, more than anything, it's like it was interesting. I actually was talking to Andy Kirker yesterday, and we were talking about a 60-mile stretch of whoops. And he's saying, or 15 miles. It was a 15-mile stretch of whoops that he was talking about. And he goes, well, if you're doing 30, you're just kind of trail riding it. That's a half hour to get through that. But if you're doing 60, that's mile minute. That's a 15-mile. That's a 15-minute ride. So it's like,
yeah.
I'm thinking in what you're saying, and I think what it is, because it's just so many miles, is you can't think. You need all your brain power for navigating, and you can't think about riding. But then that in itself makes it easier for you to ride a longer distance, because you don't even, it's like, I just rode 100 miles, but you don't even notice it. Where, at least for me, I'm at SoCal Rally, and I'm doing 60 and 80 miles of this road book, and I'm like, man, this has been a long day already, guys. So how do you feel about So
yeah.
So it's, that's a very interesting thing. You think about like, well, yeah, these guys have been riding forever, but the terrain, the rockiness, especially the enduro stuff, going through woods and all that stuff. I can't imagine. Well, I imagine that's got to be pretty taxing on the brain too, because talk about sensory overload.
Yeah. What's hilarious is that my girlfriend, she just started riding right after, I really started training for all of this. And so it's hilarious because I find myself, when I came back, let's say from South Carolina, I told her, I just said, I said, my adrenaline was so high in the beginning. I kept having to take breaks, and it was just crazy. My hands were shaking, and I was, because we're talking really deep sugar sand in the woods. Like, so you had the added benefit of having trees that if you go squirrely in the sand, you're going to come off and you're going to whack a tree pretty good. And so I'm telling her this, and she goes, wow. She goes, you described exactly how I feel every time I ride with you. So it's funny that people at different levels will literally have the same types of reactions, to this stuff. I mean, for me, I think with the road book, though, I actually find that, it's nice for me to kind of, it clicks off the kilometers, more evenly, I guess, when I'm reading a road book. It's like all of a sudden I look down, like, oh wow, I'm already at KM 85. It's like, whoa.
Yeah.
that went by fast. It's because of probably all the multitasking. To me, it sort of takes I'm not totally solely focused on writing. I'm not solely focused on the road book, and so just kind of that mixed thing is kind of like, I mean, I am kind of very ADD, so I think that's maybe why that works well. But it definitely rally is, I just, the speed part of it is the area where where I don't have to think so much about the riding, or just that my just general speed is just up there just because I'm so comfortable on the bike. And that's where that's my goal now. And I think after Sonora also, I was like, I need to stop drilling so much and just go ride with friends and get, go with guys who are faster, get behind them and get on their tails and just try to, hang with them as long as I can physically hang with them, and use. Now the way I'm thinking is that the fitness component comes back into this, which is, if I can, do, let's say out of the 500 turns I may do on my track here, that if my fitness could only support me doing 10 of those perfectly, I want my fitness now to get to the point where I can do 50 of those perfectly. And that's kind of my thinking, is that I can actually start to get faster by being more fit. It's kind of, before I thought it was the opposite. Before I thought if I'm really, really in bad shape, I would actually be a more efficient rider because I have to be, but it just wasn't really working out that way.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And that it's an interesting point. It's where is that balance, right? Is it focus 100%, or, where does the bar slider go for fitness versus, talent is the wrong word, but, or skill set, and like you're saying, it's like, at what point do you decide, like, okay, I'm done doing cone drills. I'm done doing, cornering drills. I'm done doing this stuff. It's time to just go ride. When Gnarly Dave hears this, he's going to call me right after and be like, I told you that you're the one that needs to go riding. But, it's finding that balance, I guess, is like, when do you decide?
I think, going out to South Carolina was exactly what I need to do. Sand is probably going to be the best teacher you can ever ask for, because it really forces you to get yourself into the right position. And if you don't, it punishes you. And so my plan now is, I think, to try to get out to South Carolina a little bit more, and run these, loops in some of this deep sand. And it's, that will be probably one of the best things I can do. And especially if I'm riding with other people who are faster and they've been riding that stuff for years, and they to them, it's just a trail ride. And, but for me, it's absolutely terrifying, just trying to get my, going into like this, rutted out sandy turn. Every time I get towards it, I get into my head a little bit, like, what's my bike going to do when I, go into this? How far back do I need to be? How much, lean do I need to put into the bike? And again, I tell this to Michelle, and she's like laughing at me. She's like, you're doing exactly what scares me when I'm just on regular mountain roads. And it's like, so it's all relative. And it's one of those things where I think as, you through repetition, let's say 20, 30 times around these tracks, I think it'll eventually get to the point where I can turn my brain off to a lot of stuff. And that's happened with a lot of the riding I've done. It's like I can turn it off, when I'm in the Rudy single track that I ride here. If I come around a corner and there's sort of an off camber, weird root sticking out or something, I kind of know what the bike's going to do when I hit that thing. So I immediately kind of maybe shift my weight just in a funny way, just intuitively. And I think that's, again, that's the seat time argument. But I get a little bit taken aback when people say it's all seat time, because I think there's more intentional seat time that you can do that will progress you further. And there's also what you do during that seat time. If you're kind of always thinking about, how did that feel? What am I trying to do? And I think there's something to be said for very intentional practice. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I also want to just keep having fun. But for me, a lot of my fun comes from getting better at something. So it all kind of plays into itself.
Yeah. Well, and that's, it's definitely an interesting, the argument, right? Or not the argument, but that balance, finding the balance and then just finally deciding it. That's very, I don't know. I think about it. It's like, man, well, who do you listen to, right? Who do you admire? Yeah. You see their ability and they're telling you one thing, and then you see somebody else that you admire their ability and what they're able to do, and you're like, well, maybe I need to be more like that guy, So.
Well, like I do know that, like if I went out to the desert, and there's these, where you have maybe, let's say 4K of straightaway, and then you get these, nice progressive turns, that you can rail at 40 miles an hour. You start to think, well, gee, can I do this at, 60 miles an hour and just kind of, flat track my way, sliding through those things. And those speeds are, those have consequences. And my wrist, the hardware in my wrist now is a consequence of feeling like I was a little more, that I went a little too fast on a gravel road and found myself, having a bad time. So the thing I'm starting to feel like is, I think, sand and places where you have where you get to have a lot of turns, turns are where your speed's going to be made up. And if I can really perfect the feel for the bike in smaller, slower environments, I feel like that'll translate to having a feel for the bike maybe at higher speeds. But I may be completely wrong about that, where the guys who are riding at the higher level are saying, well, no, you're going to have to go out there and you're going to have to train at the faster speeds on those gravel, those gravel roads and stuff. So I don't know. But in general, I do feel like there is something about, really learning to feel the bike, and definitely the slippier, tighter scenarios are going to make you feel it a lot better, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Get more comfortable with how much the bike will slide out, where that point of track to me, the thing is the traction. Okay. Yeah. Where, back in the days when I had my Mini, I had a first gen Mini, the BMW version, and then I later on got the S. But it was always the same thing. Roll the windows down a little bit. Now go into the corners, no music. You can hear the tires. You can the car's going to tell you when, okay, I'm at my edge.
Yeah.
You don't get that on a dirt bike.
you don't. And some tires are worse than others when it comes to that as well. The Golden Tire 333 that a lot of us run for rally, I found it just has a very definitive breaking point where other tires will start to roll out and you'll start to feel them start to walk out just a little bit. You know, and the funny thing I'm finding too is that there's the sort of, you know, in my mind, I'm like, well, I kind of want to intentionally walk it out and start to, you know, and then there's times where I'm kind of going around these curves and I'm just like, oh, wow, I just walked it out a whole lot. And, you know, I'm kind of like, well, the guys who are really doing that, who I'm behind and watching them do this, are they actually thinking that they're wanting to walk it out, or are they just riding really well and it just happens to be that that's what happens? And I think it's a byproduct more than an intention a lot of times. So it's and again, it just comes from a lot of time on the bike. But my Golden tires were not very friendly to learning that, just because they break very unpredictably. And now I'm running. So I think it's the Dunlop 606s on my enduro bike, and they're fine. But they definitely a little more predictable. The rally replica I used in Spain had the Michelin Desert Race Baja, and I was talking with Lyndon about it, and he said these actually have a very good feel for that, and I could feel it on that bike as well. And he said, but the regular desert races, he goes, they're a little bit less predictable. I think a little maybe harder carcass or something.
Yeah, they'll have that tendency to break free, in not as linear as the Baja version would. Yeah. Which is interesting. We've heard back and forth. We've heard some different stuff on those tires, that specific version for the rear, that they won't hold up at the Dakar because of the mileage and because of the heat and all that.
Right. And I was mandated to not go above, I think 90 kilometers an hour on my liaisons back to the villa.
Oh, okay.
So, with those tires.
Yeah.
And they stayed together the whole time, so it was good.
So, well, then that brings us to because I think we may be the same. It's like if there's a little thing that I can change or do differently, that, you know, maybe I won't notice it, but it's supposed to be. I don't notice the 1%, but if I got a bunch of 1% improvements, that's 10% better than where I started. So, knowing this, and what tire combination are you leaning towards now? You mentioned the 606. Is that kind of home for you, or are you looking for something else?
No, that was just a byproduct of the fact that my bike came with Continental TKC 80s that I took off immediately, and they were under recall, and so we got free tires. In my shop, they were like, well, you know, we could order some, you know, maybe the Anakis or something. And I was just like, yeah, I'll just take you whatever you have. They had the 606. And I mean, it's not just, you know, an untrusted opinion. I mean, Bobby Woldridge with Woolies, he's very much, you know, the kind of riding we do here, and I trust him to make a good suggestion. And so I went with the 606s, and they've been fine. They've been good. You know, I'm not really I'm not riding at a level that really, I think, makes too much difference. But the difference, though, in that ability to kind of have some more feel, I think, is actually really good. Though, if you're trying to improve your skills, you don't want to have unpredictable brakes when you're trying to learn. So I think having something that walks out a little bit more predictably is a good idea.
Yeah, especially, I mean, because you're trying to find the limit of the bike. I mean, to me, that's the biggest thing. Is like when you get into the corners. You know, I was listening to Andy Kirker. We were talking about, you know, riding in sand washes, because, you know, San Felipe has a lot of sand wash, coarse sand, some sugar sand, and he's talking about riding just outside of the groove. I'm like, wait, that's where it's all loose. Like, how do you even? In my mind, I'm thinking like, wait, you're just going to be squirrely the whole time. But you know, it's that. He knows the ability of the tire and has spent years and years and years on a dirt bike. So for him, you know, like you're saying, you know, kind of mentioned earlier, that's a question he may not know how to answer because he doesn't think about it anymore.
Exactly. So. And you know, and Jimmy Lewis is a huge fan of the Kenda. I can't remember which one it is, but he loves that one because it brakes really well, and the way he likes to do his turns is he goes in really hot, brakes super hard, and then just kind of crawls through his turns, and that's his strategy, and that's probably the safest way to do it. And I try to, that's how I should, probably a little bit more what I should emulate. But everybody's got, I think, their thing that they're going to lean towards in terms of their tires and what they grow up with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've seen. Yeah, I think I don't know if it's the Parker. I know he uses the big blocks on the adventure bike.
It's the Parker DT is what he uses for his.
Yeah, for the rear, and then I don't know. I forget which one they're running in it's like the Washougal or something like that for the front. So then the other question that I had based on all this, because it almost seems like they went hand in hand. There's a new bike in the garage.
There is a new bike in the garage.
It's not Husqvarna.
So without alluding to too much of what happened, there was some exposure to the Cove while I was in Spain, and the collective opinion of that bike was it's a legit rally bike, and after seeing what a huge difference it is to be on a proper rally bike versus just a modified enduro, I immediately on the flight home was sending out messages. How do I get one of these things? And I was lucky enough to find one of the last pros in the country. And it was through Industry 13 out of South Carolina, Roman Kilgore. And he's got a really, really good shop, and he's really going all in with Kobe, probably the biggest distributor or dealer out in this part of the country anyway. And just awesome guy to work with. But, anyway, so I went out to South Carolina and picked up the new Cove, and I mean, out of the box, it's incredible. I mean, it's got the ERTF mount on it. It's ready. It's literally ready to go to Dakar.
Yeah.
And it was. I mean, I have a pretty clear opinion on the differences between it and the Rally replica. But I mean, I'll just say that having a proper rally bike is great. I mean, I wasn't expecting to have it be as loud as it is. And, Sunday mornings up in these little mountain homesteads, I feel kind of a little guilty, but I put it through its paces already. And I actually rode through things like these same types of stuff that we took that Rally replica through. And I have a pretty good basis of comparison. I mean, again, I took it down some harder enduro, dry waterfalls and stuff like that. And it's a really good bike. It's not as refined, I would say, as the Rally replica, but it could also be something to do with the fact that Lyndon had set that bike up perfectly for me, and it's a Lyndon Poskit version, which has been completely taken apart and tuned and everything. And so the Cove, I probably need to do a little bit of work on the suspension. The balance point, I think the center of gravity right now for me, it's a little too far forward. I need to maybe work on the sag, get myself back a little bit. There's it doesn't seem to have as much ballast, I'd say, as the Rally replica. It's but plenty of power for me. And it's but it is, it is a proper rally bike, and it's really good. It just hits stuff. The suspension's great. I took it through a GP track, jumping it, landing on flat. Just everything I can throw at it, big G outs, some sharp hits. Rode it through single track on my single track that I usually ride my 300 XC on. And I mean, while it's really heavy and it doesn't lug really well through that stuff, and that's the only complaint. You've probably heard this on all the different reviews of the Cove. It doesn't really favor lugging at a low end. It really needs probably just a little bit bigger sprocket in the rear, so that it puts the power up a little bit further up in the RPMs when you're in first. I just found myself a lot of times either feathering the jerkiness out of first gear or feathering power into the second gear. So a lot of feathering was happening. So I feel like if I just get some of the gearing right, I think it'll be pretty good for the conditions I ride, which is a mix of mountain road plus shooting off into some single tracks and kind of gnarlier stuff.
Yeah, and that's not to say, I mean, later on, I mean, I know that the Pro version has the race ECU in it, but there may be an additional map that gets released or something that maybe spices it up a little bit. But from what I understand, yeah, I've heard that, I think it's going up 2 teeth in the back seems to be the ticket more or less. But I guess, it depends on the riding you're doing too. You have kind of a unique area.
Yeah, if I was out west in the desert, I mean, it'd be fantastic. I mean, whenever I'm out in the desert, I'm finding myself running 45 miles an hour to 65, right up in that kind of sweet spot. And for that, it would be spot on. I mean, because at around 45 to 50, you can still twist that throttle and get apply some power, put some power down and control the bike with the throttle at that speed. At the low speeds, it's definitely, when you're crawling and trialsing your way through stuff, it's just not made for that at all. It's a rally bike. So.
Yeah, I know, right? How much hard enduro do you really want it? I mean, we're not everybody is Paul Torres, lugging a 700 T700 around. So,
yeah, I just have a bunch of crazy friends here though who they take their 790s and stuff, and they like to, we'll run the mountain roads, and then we'll shoot off into the woods and do some gnarly stuff, and so it's something that I'm trying to not let sour my experience with the bike, because it is a really amazing bike for the cost. But I mean, for any time you're going over 20 miles an hour on that bike, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's super comfortable, really comfortable, and I haven't even done anything to the suspension yet.
Yeah. So that's so then the question then becomes, is this, if we've got a triangle, right? We know the Rally Factory replica is the unicorn we can't necessarily get in the US,
right. Or Ford for me. So where you have the 501 and then you have the Cove. Yep.
How close is it?
In my 300 XC
and the 300 XC?
Yeah.
But the 501 is the one that's done rally.
Yes.
Already. So
yeah.
How far? Like, the obvious answer is that yes, the Cove is closer to the RFR than the 501 is. But is it a very big difference from the 501 to the Cove?
It's a huge difference. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, in the weight. Especially, it's very, very noticeably heavier. It's hard to describe really that jump from the 501 to the RFR is or just a proper rally bike. I mean, you're talking about carrying 45 to 60 pounds more of fuel, and so And on top of that, the bike itself weighs a lot more. And I mean, the bike is that the rally bike is actually designed for just long, brutal days. It's got oil coolers. It's just got a lot more mass in the engine. It's just a very different kind of bike. But the way it carries the weight a little bit lower, yet it's still narrow enough to sort of feel like an enduro bike. It's really hard to describe how it's like a level, again, it's like a level of refinement, I'd say, by a certain factor. And so if like the refinement between the Cove and the RFR is maybe a factor of maybe just a few points, between the 501 and these rally bikes is like 10. I mean, it's very, very different in terms of the balance and the head angles and everything else. And just kind of how it hits things on the ground, it just feels better. It's just hard to describe, but I mean, on one hand, the weight could be an impediment if you're in something very tight. But for the most part, when I was in Spain, and Lyndon kept on saying it's a heavy bike, but it didn't feel heavy to me. And I think that's just a matter of we never really had to try to muscle it through anything that complicated. Now in the river washes, yeah, there was I felt its weight a few times and had to dab and stuff. But for the most part, it's just they're very different, and rally bikes are in a really unique space, I think.
What's going on, guys? Victor with the Chasing Waypoints podcast. All right. Are you looking to promote your brand to a worldwide audience on the podcast? Drop us a line at podcast@chasingwaypoints.com and let's talk. See what we can do about getting you some more ears for your company and getting the word out worldwide.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a purpose-built, dirt bike. And yeah, like you said, I mean, where you're at, obviously, yeah, the tighter wood sections, the tighter terrain and that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's going to be a little bit more difficult for it. But the Southern California, the Western United States, big open fast roads, the Baja Peninsula, the sonora side of it, where you're constantly, 3, 4, 5, not messing around in the lower gears. I think that, that's going to suit better for it.
Yeah. And I mean, like, let's take a sandy whooped out section, like Andy's talking about 15 miles of whoops. That sounds like misery, but, again, that's where your fitness has to come into play, But if you're hitting something like that, it's much nicer to have the weight of the bike be driving driving the suspension than your body. So there's a little bit of forgiveness in that. And I remember, taking a motocross clinic, a couple of years ago, and he was saying there were little kids in the group, and he was saying, to the little kids, I mean, they're just on the bike. And he said, but to you guys, he goes, you guys got to be careful, because what you do with your bodies is going to affect what that bike does in the air. So it's kind of the weight of it for me is what's really nice is it's at a weight that's kind of buffering, I think, my body from a lot of it. And again, that's the purpose of a rally bike, is to allow your body to survive 10 to 12 hours in a given day in some pretty gnarly stuff.
Yeah, it's not deflecting off of everything it hits.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And I mean, again, proper suspension setup on any bike is going to, the guys who run Baja and their CRFs, they've got their suspension absolutely dialed in perfectly for that. But I mean, this bike is going to be amazing. I think once I get a suspension set up on this thing, it's going to be pretty amazing. And I just can't wait to kind of keep evolving my time on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, spending more and more time. But how many hours have you put on that thing already? You have an idea?
At this point, probably about 10 hours.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Yep. And, I'm due for the first oil change. So far the thing, I mean, it's a really good bike. It's hard to describe that. I mean, I'm not Jimmy Lewis with all these years of experience taking care of, dozens of bikes and, so I don't have that kind of perspective, but, just from my feel and just kind of that gut feel of it, it just feels very solid and confidence inspiring. That's what a lot of people have said too. It's just confidence inspiring.
Yeah. That's the big, that's the big one. Confidence, it builds the speed. I think builds the speed a little bit quicker. Because as you start pushing and you feel, well, that wasn't so bad.
Yeah. And I think about, again, going to like this deep sugar sand, these 18-mile loops in South Carolina, and I'm like, wow, when would I take the rally bike out there? And it's going to be a little while before I do that, but it's a smaller bike. Getting dialing my technique into a smaller bike where you do get the feedback is good. Mm-hmm. Having a bigger bike, you don't get as much feedback from the bike necessarily, but you also are going to suffer some consequences if you don't have that bike in a good position when you get on the gas in the turn or something. So there's a lot to consider, I think, in terms of training with, do I train on the rally bike or do I train on the 501 mm-hmm. or do I train on the 300 even? So I'm kind of working through that right now.
Yeah. Yeah. That's that would be an interesting regimen of how to put it all together. Right. Cause the 300, you're going to end up being, I would think, more woodsy balance, slow trials, really feeling a bike through your feet type terrain versus, the 501, you're going to be a little bit more aggressive on some bigger roads and some maybe rougher stuff than you would want to ride. And then the rally bike is just like putting everything together.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it'll be a while before I take that bike out and try to put it through its paces in the sand. But and I have to kind of keep asking myself, what's my goal really? But the rally bike really is such a different kind of beast that and I was told that early on when I was putting my 501 together. Mm-hmm. Angela Vischek, reached out to me and said, you really want an RFR. Lyndon reached out, you really want an RFR. And it definitely, now that I've got experience on a proper rally bike, it does make sense to why you'd want to train on one as well. Mm-hmm. So, the way I'm treating the rally bike is to treat it more like a all-day adventure bike. I mean, I have some road books I'm building for Georgia that, I could expand them and start making them, into like 8-hour books. Mm-hmm. And just get, I'd have, 1,000, gravel road, mountain, forest road turns at the end of one of those books. And doing that on the rally bike, I think it makes a lot more sense than the 501. But if I'm just fun riding with some buddies, I think, the 501 is going to be the perfect bike. If I was to go out back to Sonora with some guys, I'd want my 501 with me and just use it as an enduro bike and just have fun in the sand and just get used to it, with that bike and not suffer the big rally bike out there.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Not as taxing on it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, that's one of those trade-offs again. It's like, do you want to be able to have the energy to have, 100 more turns in you, or do you, want to simulate, riding your actual bike that you would race on? And to me, I feel like I'd be better off getting, 100 more turns in.
No. Yeah. And then being, tapped out from, from handling a bike. And
I do not want to lift that thing up in a dune. I mean, Sonora, I was picking my bike up probably 20 times in that first day, the day 4, it was the 2022 Sonora. And I had not had any experience in dunes, especially that big. And I was picking that bike up all day long. I think one of the funniest things is Willem Avenant. He was filming, and I'm coming over a crest of a hill. We just kind of entered the dune area. Mm-hmm. And I see Willem standing there filming, and I'm like, what's going on? And I look at the notes, and it says pit. And I'm like, what? Pit? And all of a sudden, I think it was one of the other racers, I watched him start to go over sort of the horizon, I guess, and all of a sudden he just drops his bike. I'm like, wow, I'm going to get ahead of him. I felt like I was being racy, and all of a sudden I start to crest the same thing, and I just dump it right there. Because it was the first time I'd ever, been, came over and seen, 150 foot, straight downhill, pit. It absolutely, messed with my head. So
yeah,
that, and Willem got it all on film.
Yeah.
But it was definitely what?
Not the pit we were all thinking.
Right. I mean, it was crazy. It was, getting used to the big dunes, some of it's just, you get to the top, you come across the other side, and you just can't help just mentally having it just terrify you to death. So, I mean, that's the area that I definitely want to learn, and practice a lot more, is just getting used to the dunes and get over my fear of heights.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that is, those dunes are there's only a handful of places in the world that are like that. So it's kind of a special place too.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I'd love to go back to Sonora. I mean, but even if I could just go to, Glamis or some of these other, or even Big Dune or something, that'd be good for me. But that's the challenge of living in Georgia. I mean, because any trip like that's going to be 3 days in the car. If I cannonball it. So
yeah, that's a little bit of an endurance event just to get out.
Yep.
But no, that's good. But so what is next? I mean, obviously you've been training your ass off, physically. What are the next big rides? Are you doing any rally schools? Anything?
Yeah, no, I really wanted to have gone out to the Sonora Rally School, but after Spain, it would just budget-wise. Spain, that killed my entire year's budget for rally. If I was gonna do anything, I would probably have to do Malimoto in something maybe next fall. So not sure what that would be. Maybe it's Kota, maybe it's Baja 6 Day. My friend Dirk, who lives here, one of the 3 rally racers from this part of the country. Mm-hmm. We were talking maybe about Baja 6 Day, okay. Which I think would be a lot of fun. And I kind of think that I could probably just maintain the bike myself. I don't think I need a support crew and that expense. And if I can do anything to drop the expense, then it might lead me to take, maybe take a little more risk, maybe ride a little faster sometimes and stuff. So, mm-hmm. So I think that'd be kind of fun. I mean, it's just, I love rally. So it's just a matter of, it's very expensive. Each event is very expensive. And especially when you're from Georgia, yeah. Just the amount of time I have to take off from work to get out and do these things is prohibitive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. The travel time, and yeah, that's I guess the one thing they didn't tell us about adulthood, right?
Yeah.
That's the other balance we all got to work on.
Well, and when I originally came up with the whole Couch to Dakar idea with the 5 pillars, one being the financial aspect of it, that I didn't realize how big of a deal that was going to be. I just thought that I would somehow tap into some, like at the time I was kind of in a weird headspace to start. So I kind of was maybe a little more, fatalistic and thought, well, I'll just exhaust some of my IRA or something to do Dakar. But, now that I've actually started, kind of going down that path towards it, all of a sudden I'm like, oh, it's like I'm having a good time and I've got, my personal life has changed a whole lot, and so it's, a little more balance, I think, from a lifestyle standpoint is kind of where I'm at now. And so for me, I just want to have more fun but trying to figure out a way to maybe side hustle some extra money somehow, take on some software engineering projects or something, and it would be nice to get out from the 9 to 5, but I don't see that happening anytime soon. So I'm just going to kind of work within it.
I think we need to leverage AI to give us some winning lotto numbers.
No kidding.
I don't need the jackpot. I just need consistent wins,
Yeah, exactly. So, but it's all good. I at one point I really wanted to move out west, but again, personal life starts to, happen, and you change your priorities kind of as you go. I mean, I think there was a number of people and who, with my whole, well, I'll be honest. I mean, there's a number of people I think who have kind of led with, oh, I'm going to go to Dakar at some point. And I think we all have sort of seen the magnitude of it, of how hard it really would be to get to that point. But yeah, it's one of these things where, the level of, I mean, there was a guy, just as an example, there was a guy at Lyndon's training who he's done Lyndon's school like 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
And he, I guess he had been riding, road bikes, and then he switched over to dirt a couple years ago, and he got so into it that he literally bought a rally replica. He goes to a motocross track literally weekly with a coach. Mm-hmm. Works out like a maniac. He's probably 7% body fat, just a total beast. He's former military guy.
Yeah.
And he was incredibly fast. I mean, he's on track to, if he was to race, again, performance criteria for Dakar, probably high level, B-level racer. And he's absolutely at that level. That's kind of I don't want to say couch to Dakar, but I mean, I think he might have had the fitness dialed in first, but it's one of those things, where, to get there, you really have to have a level of skill or a level of fitness that's, I mean, Kyle McCoy, great example of someone who came into this sport riding probably a little bit later in life, mm-hmm. But had absolutely the fitness background and not just, but also the mental toughness aspect as well. So, you've got to be exceptional in at least 1 or 2 of those categories.
Yeah. Yeah. To be able to have it, and to me, I feel like putting the mental endurance is I don't know, at least personally, that's the one I put, because even if the body's telling you, I've had enough, yeah. I don't know, but I mean, again, from 6,000 miles away.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, at Lyndon School, I like, Sonora, you were there, you saw that I went ahead and I pushed my way through every waypoint, and I finished each day really late, and suffered through it. And, I just wanted to finish and hit every waypoint so I could at least measure my time against others and sort of see where I was. And really Mo Hart was the one I was measuring myself against, because, I knew he was going to Dakar, and I was like, okay, thankfully he finished, and I was able to sort of see how he finished. Mm-hmm. And I'm kind of like, okay, wow, I need to get my speed up by, 35, 40%. And then, but, with Lyndon, I cut, one of the days short, and then another day I actually cut short. And I mean, I was so exhausted. Probably it was, I think, the Thursday, the 4th day. I just felt horrible. I hadn't slept the night before, and my brain literally is broken. I mean, I couldn't decipher the road book to save my life, and I got to the first support stop, and I told them, they were like telling me to hurry up because I was so far behind, and I just said to them, I said, dude, I think I'm just going to go home. And they're like, no, don't go home. Just keep, note after note after note. And so I was happy that they kind of pushed me to do that. But that was also the day another rider ended up in the hospital. And I mean, still, I was out there for 7 hours into the stage. And I found myself in the small village, and I just started making stupid turns trying to get through the village. And I just finally stopped, called them up, and I said, hey, man, I'm just going to put in the coordinates of of our villa, and I'm going to head back. And they were like, yeah, go ahead. That's fine. And it was still a 7.5, 8 hour day.
Yeah.
I just felt it was the right thing to do. And the next day I got out there and I was able to ride really hard and did really well. So it was the right thing at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I could see it. You kind of get to a point where you're like, okay, well, first of all, there's, again, no contracts are being signed at the end of this. So, it's about having I think the alternative is you push and then the next morning you wake up and you just don't even want to get on the bike, period.
There was a morning I didn't want to ever be in a rally again. I really there's a level of suffering that and it's good, and it's good that Lyndon School does do that. Like it will push everybody that level, and if the first 5 days don't get, or 4 days don't get you, the 6th mega stage will. So it is one of those things. And I mean, those guys who are fast, I mean, they came in 14 hours later and they were broken. I mean, they were absolutely cooked. So, and that's it's good that he has such a tough school, because it actually, you learn more than just navigation. You kind of learn about yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You're learning on all fronts. Exactly. Riding ability, what you're capable of, and then obviously the learning how to read a road book more efficiently. And that's an interesting one you mentioned earlier about, it's like such a high note count that it is important to read ahead and try and get a bit of an edge,
Yeah. And it's funny too, because I talked to Lyndon about this and he was saying, well, he goes, I don't read ahead. And he goes, I read note by note and I'll calibrate. If it's not a turn, I'll just go ahead and calibrate because I'll see the double caution or whatever. For me, I mean, I'm probably a little different, that I'll go ahead and read ahead just to see where my next instruction is. And then I'll maybe go back and I'll calibrate against, some of the cautions just to make sure that my instruments are on, so that I don't accidentally, miss that turn 5 kilometers later.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it's there's just something, I just want to go ahead and ride. I just want to, get up on the saddle, get out of the saddle and just like start cranking it and try to get through those 5K as fast as I can, and just, deal with the cautions as I get there. But I'm not riding at such a high level that the cautions really matter. And I've talked to a lot of guys who say that they only pay attention to like the triple cautions, and, so I don't know what's right or wrong. I do know that at Sonora, there was one point where I read ahead and I looked over, I could see the, power lines, and I was like, if I just kind of cut across there, man, I'm going to be on the highway. I'm going to hit that this other waypoint, and I was able to, kind of get a little bit of a, able to kind of cut a corner, just let's say. But apparently, if that was FIM, that would probably disqualify me. But
It may be a little questionable, but I mean that was what for years a lot of the guys in the Dakar were doing. They had guys, what was it? It was a few years back where they got a few guys got popped doing that, where they were getting notes added in or adding in notes on how to basically short the road book. And so it's I guess if you can recognize it on the fly, I guess it's fair play to a certain extent, because it's from waypoint to waypoint, as long as you don't miss anything. But man, you're playing with fire on getting lost, though.
Yeah. Oh, in Spain, I totally did that, and I ended up shorting, this one section, and Frederic, who works with Lyndon, and he's the one who designs the road books. He said, "Okay, I'm putting in a WPC into this one point, because he goes, you still got back on track, you were fine, but you completely missed you didn't do it right." So.
Well, I didn't do it right according to what you wanted me to do, but
Exactly.
I don't see any missed waypoints.
Exactly.
Just saying.
Exactly.
But that's good. You know, that is considering, you know, you're reading the road book, you're doing all that stuff, and being able to put that thing together. And I think a lot of people, you know, playing the home game may not realize that that's not as easy. I mean, it's reading the terrain, comparing to the notebook, and then deciding, okay, well, this looks like it's if I just stay this route or this course, the race course will go out and back, and it'll meet me.
Yeah, and it's really satisfying when you do find yourself making some kind of a mistake, and then all of a sudden you look at a note, and you're like, oh, ooh, wow, I just found this randomly. I skipped over a couple notes, but I'm actually where I'm supposed to be now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but then there's also, you know, for every one of those, there's probably, you know, 3 or 4 where you're like, this doesn't match up. Where am I? You know, and so you find yourself lost. But what really made that road book hard in Spain was the fact that you'd go into these small villages, you'd be under speed control, and you'd have, you know, just 6 or 7 notes within a couple kilometers, you know, kind of zigzagging your way through. I mean, oh my gosh, they actually put a WPC.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so imagine a village that's nestled up into basically a cliff. Mm-hmm. And imagine, you know, you have like terraces kind of going up, but then you have driveways that are at, you know, 50-degree angles that you're having to kind of go up. Even though it's concrete, it's still scary, you know, kind of going up these things. And it starts getting narrower and narrower. And then all of a sudden you just see sort of a sidewalk pathway in front of people's homes, you know, that empty into this little, you know, passageway. And I'm like, there's no way that there's a waypoint in there. And I, sure enough, I pull up into this thing, and I'm at like I said, a 45-degree angle on a sidewalk. Mm-hmm. And it's like 9:00 in the morning, you know, and I'm like, this can't be right. I absolutely must be lost. And I was like the only person who actually picked up that WPC, because it was literally right there in front of someone's front door of their home. And but, you know, instead of trying to go all the way up through the sidewalk, I backed up and kind of found myself out on the road, and I ended up on this road, and I found myself at the stop sign that was in the book. And again, I was able to, you know, have that moment where I'm like, oh, cool, I found my way to where I'm supposed to be, and I was able to readjust. But you know, there was some really cool stuff in some of those books, and really, really fun, and kind of in that case, that was kind of silly, but it was pretty awesome at the same time.
Nice. Yeah. My guess is that Lyndon probably knows who lives there. Because I don't know how most people would feel. I don't care what part of the world is somebody riding up on a bike.
Exactly.
To almost your front door.
Yeah, I mean, there was definitely there were some villages that you know, apparently had they got permission from you know, they did the work. And I mean, I got to say that if you look at the expense of one of his programs, but then you actually look at what it actually takes to put it together and do it in a really safe way, where you have, you know, they literally have a full-time medical, you know, and with HT Rally right there, they had two cars with 2 medics. Mm-hmm. I mean, all the work that they put in for those books, and all the political stuff they have to do to get the parks to grant access, to get the villages to be okay with you riding, you know, through, you know, semi-private roads and through people's farms and stuff. I mean, it's a lot of work that they do. I mean, it really became clear that it was really kind of a very special opportunity.
Yeah. I mean, a huge undertaking, obviously.
Yeah.
You know,
to
get it. And that's not the only one he does. He does a few of those a year, right?
Yeah, he does Portugal, and then it starts, I guess, in Spain, but ends up in Portugal, and it moves. The Bivouac moves every day. The nice thing about Spain is it stayed in one villa the entire time that we worked out of, and we just had different liaisons each day to different starting points. Nice. The Portugal one actually moves bivouacs every day, mm-hmm. And if it's even equal to the intensity of Spain, just that added element of work would make the Portugal one just, you know, that much harder. Mm-hmm. And then he's got Morocco. And, you know, that was initially what I'd signed up for. 2 years ago when he announced this whole thing, he mentioned Morocco. And I'm like, I want to ride in Morocco. And so I sent him a note. I sent him a deposit. And I said, Lyndon, here's the deposit. Give me a year to get better on the bike. Well, COVID hits and everything. Well, in the meantime, they started with their time working through the Morocco routes, they were like, you know what, this is too dangerous for people who are not riding at a very high level to come out and try to do this, because we have to go to different bivouacs every day. Everybody has to finish every stage. So, and we don't have, hospitals near us, and to get people out of there is going to be really, a challenge. So they've adjusted it a little bit to say, if you're going to do Morocco, you probably need to have, you need to really either have like a Dakar resume, or you need to, race a big race resume, or you need to have done one of his classes before, and he has to establish that trust. Yeah. Just from what I know from that Spain, I would not sign up for the Morocco one myself right now. I mean, I wouldn't even talk to him about it. I need to be riding at a much higher level at this point to be able to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just a little more the practice and I mean, I think the biggest thing is being able to clear every single stage with confidence. I think that's the big, when it comes to something like that. And I mean, because people ride a little differently when it's remote, they'll understand that, but yeah, I could, I would be hesitant.
I think I have the stamina and the kind of mental part of it to be able to just go, to make it to the bivouac every day. I mean, Sonora kind of proved that to me, that I was like, wow, I'm tougher than I thought I was. But it going, the whole be rested thing. I mean, it would be tough. I mean, especially if the road books are frenetic still. I don't know if they'll be a little bit looser in Morocco, but I mean, that'd be throwing me into the fire to do something like that. I don't know. I mean, 14-hour day, it would be tough, but I feel like I can do it. But it just, I like the fact that I was able to take a break, in Spain, and just like bail out one of those days. That was really nice.
Yeah. Yeah. I can definitely imagine that one. A little bit of relief.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, cool. Good. So we got a little bit to go before the next rally, but you got 3 bikes to ride and practice on and put the hours on.
Yeah, got a lot of practice. I need to start, I wish I had a second home out, in some of these sandier areas. It'd be nice, but I'm going to just try to make time for regular trips out there. That'd be the way to do it. I think, maybe one weekend every month or something, get out to either South Carolina or down to Florida. Apalachicola has some really good stuff down there as well. So it's, sand is going to be my sand is my new new teacher, and that's where I need to kind of keep my focus, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I could, I can't even fathom riding a dirt bike in sand dunes. So, so I'm with you on that one. Sand washes, I'm okay.
You've got them. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Sand washes, I'm okay with. It's just the sugar sand dunes. It's just like, yeah, I'll watch from over here.
There you go.
I'll watch from the satellite. Watch you guys running around in the sandbox. Nice.
Awesome.
Well, excellent, man. I really appreciate you coming on the show, and I was excited to hear. When I saw you were going to do the Lyndon Poskit, the Spain version, I was like, all right, this is going to be cool. I want to know about it, because he's been working on it for a while. So it's cool to. It sounds like it was an awesome time.
He's got it dialed in, and the thing that you have to, when you realize that everything went so smoothly, you realize that that's a byproduct of a lot of work. It's it's tough to have something be so organized and just everything taken care of for you in such a good way. It was, they had, we had mechanics every night. And it was just, there was 3 mechanics. It was fantastic. It was really a great experience. And nice. I recommend it to anybody who, wants to, if you're already a fairly experienced rider, if you go there, you're going to be navigating like a beast. If you're someone like me and, riding at kind of a, higher level novice-y kind of, or as they say, kind of mid-pack C level rider. But, rallying, it's doable, and it's still a lot of fun. And they don't put a lot of pressure on you to have to finish every day, but, it's still from you're going to get your money's worth the better rider you are, for sure.
Yeah, enjoy it just that much more.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, excellent.
Awesome.
Well, one of these days. Awesome, sir. Well, hopefully we'll get to see you and the girlfriend out here for one of the schools or sometime this year, or even if it's just for vacationing. San Diego's a great place.
I'd love to. Yeah, I would love to get out there for sure. I'm trying to figure out a way to get a bike out there and be able to make it easier to just come in, fly in or something. Maybe get her bike out there too, so she could experience a little bit of the more West Coast stuff.
Yeah,
but that'd be fun. I'd love to see you guys.
Yeah, it'd be awesome. Even a quick trip to Baja on some bikes.
That'd be fantastic. Yeah,
the food's good.
Oh. So, all righty.
Awesome, sir. Well, enjoy the rest of the weekend. You guys have fun out there, and we'll be keeping track of you.
All right, man. Thanks. Great
awesome,
talking
sir.
to you.
Yeah, same here. Thank you. See you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, so there you have it. David Black, Couch to Dakar. Awesome talking to him. Like I said, when I saw that he was going to be doing the Lyndon Poskit experience, that rally thing that he does out there, I was excited to see that, and I think that a lot of people should try that. I think it sounds like you got to get to a certain level of riding. Maybe we'll reach out to Lyndon and talk a little bit more about that. I think that, having to navigate, get to see the world on a different stage, I think that's a very, very important thing. And then, get to ride some Rally Factory replica bikes and, and get taken care of and see the sights and all that. I think that's a really big deal. So we'll see, what does the future hold? We got a lot of stuff going on here on the podcast coming up, but also things that are going out in the world of rally. And like I said, we're getting ready to start rally season here in North America again, with it being over, with Baja Rally being the last event, but then you've got Coast to Coast Rally coming up in February, and then Battleborn Rally in May. Sprinkle in some rally schools between now and then, and we're ready. We got a season going, so anyway, guys, I'm going to get to it. I got a garage to clean and get some stuff moved around. So remember, it'll make sense when you get there. Enjoy the ride. All right, that is a wrap for the Chasing Waypoints podcast. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. Looking forward to our next one coming up. Remember, if you are out riding, do not forget to tag us at Chasing Waypoints. Hashtag Chasing Waypoints. And if you haven't already, get on over to the website. Get signed up for the newsletter, the Bivouac. North America's Rally Raid and Adventure Riding newsletter. Hey, let's have some fun. Let's find out what are you guys up to. Let's get you featured. If you're a brand and looking to get supported, get some eyeballs, get some ears on your business. Absolutely, hit us up. Send us a message at podcast at Chasing Waypoints. But anyway, that is a wrap. Remember, shiny side up. See you guys.